Hey everyone! Today I'm going to show you 3 activity ideas to play with your stuffed animals. I definitely played all these things when I was younger, so if you're looking for some inspiration on what to do with your stuffed animals, then make sure to keep watching. The first idea is a classic for me, and that is to play school. I'm first going to quickly show you how I'm making this whiteboard that the teacher will use. If you already have a whiteboard or chalkboard at home, that's great, but I'm going to really easily make one by grabbing a picture frame. And since I've already removed the picture inside, I'm just going to add a few pieces of plain white paper to the inside, and then just close it up. Now you can just use whiteboard markers to write on the plastic or glass surface, and it works like a normal whiteboard. And I don't have an eraser, so I'm just using an old sock. Now to start setting things up, I'm leaning the whiteboard on one of the walls of the room, and I'm adding the stuffed animal who I want to be the teacher. Next, I'm going to start adding the desks, which for me are just some very thick chapter books. I don't do anything fancy with these or cover them, I just use what I have around the house, and these books just look to be the perfect size for desks. I only did 4 so I didn't have too many students to manage, but now I'm just going to bring in the kids and seat them at their desks. And since I made a backpack in a previous video, I had one of the students bring it to class. Separate from the backpack, I have a whole other video on making school supplies for stuffed animals, and that just included some pencils, notebook paper, a folder, and a binder. Out of all these things, the binder is definitely the most work, so I didn't make any more binders or anything, but I did make some more notebook paper and pencils, so there's enough for each student. You definitely don't have to make any of these crafts to play school with your stuffed animals. You can always just use your imagination. I would love if you checked out the school supplies video if you haven't already. I was really proud of making this binder where the rings actually open and close. But now, back at school, I'm passing out some notebook paper, and at this point I liked to just teach my stuffed animals whatever I was learning at school recently. So today I wrote a math equation on the board and I'm having the teacher explain it. And remember, these are just some ideas on what to do. You should really just go wherever your imagination takes you. Also, another idea is to just have a little story time with your stuffed animals and read them your favorite book. I use smaller stuffed animals here so they look more like younger students. The next idea I'm doing is setting up a zoo. I'm going to be doing some minimal enclosure decorating just so you know which animal goes where. I'm first adding this hand-drawn iceberg that you may have seen in Ellie and Shelley episodes. Then I'm laying down a blue bedsheet to be water and a white pillowcase to be ice. And for me, this will be the polar bear enclosure, but you could also add maybe penguins or other Arctic animals. Half of this is going to be for the hippos, so the hippos have some water, and then this blank area is going to be for the elephants. Since I'm not doing anything special there, I'm going to move on to the panda enclosure. And I know pandas should just be surrounded by bamboo, but they do live in the forest, so I just grabbed some random plants around the house to be greenery. Yes, I know this plant has eyes on it, but I borrowed it from my sister and she said I had to leave them on. I'm using these 2 plants to divide the panda and the lion enclosure. Since lions live in the jungle, I thought it'd be nice for there to be a green area as well. But on the other side, I've added some rocks I found outside and have cleaned. And now my lion enclosure is done. Next, I need to divide up these other enclosures, and I wish I had some blocks to build like a wall or something, but I just decided to go with some dark string to mark where everything was. So here I just divided the polar bears from the hippos from the elephants, and the elephants from the pandas. Now I can finally add my stuffed animals, and I'm adding a few more accessories here and there. You of course can choose whatever animal you want to include in the zoo, and you don't even have to decorate the enclosures at all, you could just put the same animals in little groups. Honestly, I remember that was one of my favorite parts, just grabbing all my stuffed animals and sorting them into their animal groups. I also ended up adding the carrot to the hippo enclosure and adding a little ball to the polar bear enclosure since I know they always have a little ball to play with. Then I'm adding in the elephants and a little cardboard tube that looks like something they might play with. And finally, I'm just adding the pandas to their enclosure and 1 lion because I only have 1 to the lion enclosure. At this point, my zoo is done, and you could either have some stuffed animals walk through and visit it, which is a little weird, but you could do that, or you could just invite family members to take a walk through and look at all the animals. Now the last idea I have is actually one of my specialties, and that is a restaurant. All the fake food I used to make were really just drawings that I've cut out, So I have an entire binder just with these drawings that I've cut out. Things for the spa, an ice cream shop, desserts for a bake sale, and foods for a breakfast restaurant, which is what I'm going to be doing today. Don't judge the drawings because they're really just suggestions of food. They don't look very accurate, but here I have some eggs, a pancake, orange juice, sausage, and I even have this omelet made of craft foam. I know these all seem pretty self-explanatory to make, but I'm going to show you in detail how I made a few of them. I'm starting with the waffles. There are many variations, but today I'm going to be making mine using yellow construction paper. I'm tracing a candle to get a circle shape, and then I'm using a light orange marker to draw a bunch of lines so it looks like a waffle. Now I'm going to be adding some toppings like I did for the other ones, so I'm going to go with some strawberries with strawberry syrup. So with a darker marker, I'm just making some strawberries, and then adding the syrup with a brighter red. Next, I'm doing a pancake, so I'm first drawing a circle. Then I'm using a yellow marker to draw a little square to be the pat of butter. For the rest, I'm going to use colored pencils since I couldn't find the right colors with markers. But with the darker tan, I'm drawing out some syrup, and then coloring it in, and then coloring the rest of the pancake with the lighter tan. And at the very end, I went in and added some blueberries. After that, I can just cut it out. Now I'm going to introduce this one to the other pancakes that obviously look very different, a little bit rough, but you get the idea that they're supposed to be pancakes. Next, I'm quickly going to make a sunny side up egg by just grabbing some white paper and drawing on a yellow circle to be the yolk. Now I'm going to cut around it all wavy, trying to make it look as realistic as possible. This wasn't one of my best though, so maybe I should have drawn it out first. One more side dish I'm going to show is hash browns. This is a little bit different from the other ones because it's not just a drawing. I first cut out a yellow circle and started cutting out really thin strips of paper from the side. After I have a bunch of them, I'm just going to start gluing this onto the circle with a glue stick, sticking them on in all directions, and you may have to apply a few layers of glue to get them all to stick. You'll want to do this until you can't see any more of that first layer of paper. After it was dry, I ended up trimming it so it just looked a little more even. Now I can start setting up my restaurant, and luckily my little cousin came over, so she helped me with this. All we did was grab random boxes from around the house and place them around the room to be the tables. And it's great to have all different sizes, so different size stuffed animals all get a seat. Usually by now there's a line of stuffed animals out the door, so it's time to seat them. Another thing you can do to make it a little easier on the waiter is passing out numbers to each table. That way it might be easier to keep straight which table you're bringing the food to. You could get a stuffed animal to play waiter, but I usually do it myself. I totally forgot to show the menu I made, but it's pretty self-explanatory. Then my cousin started going around taking everybody's order, and she even wrote them down in a little notebook to remember them. I used to play this all the time with my sister, where I'd be the waiter and she'd be the chef, so I'd take the orders and she would get the food ready and then I'd just bring them out. I remember one time it was complete chaos because there were too many customers to serve, but it was still really fun. I really hope you enjoyed this video and try some of these out. And don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more. I'll see you next time!